Welcome to the History AI podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Hey there, history buffs. Welcome back to the History AI podcast. I'm Chuck.
And I'm Marco. Today, we've got a story that waddles its way right into the annals of Marine Corps history. You're not going to want to miss this one.
That's right, Marco. We're diving into the bizarre but absolutely true tale of Sergeant Siwash, a decorated Marine who just so happened to be a duck.
Yeah, you heard that right, folks, a duck. So buckle up, because this is a story that's as quacktastic as it gets.
Okay, that's one bird pun, Marco. We're counting them now.
Just trying to keep my wings flapping, Chuck. Let's get into it.
Let's take things back to the early 1940s. The world is deep in the throes of World War II, and the United States Marine Corps is fighting hard in the Pacific. It's in this setting, thousands of miles from home, that a small, feathered Marine enters the story. His name? Siwash.
Now, if you're wondering how in the world a duck became part of the US Marine Corps, you're not alone. It's a bit of an odd story, but hey, war creates some unique situations. The story begins in New Zealand, where a Marine platoon, 3rd Platoon, Company K, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, was stationed for some R&R between operations. The men needed a mascot, something to boost their morale and remind them of a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos of war.
And that's where Siwash comes in. As the story goes, Sergeant Francis Pappy Fagan won the duck in a pub raffle. He was just a regular duck, probably no more than a few weeks old, waddling around and minding his own business. But for the Marines, Siwash was a perfect fit. They adopted him as their mascot, figuring a small, quirky companion could lighten the mood during the grim days of war.
Now, this wasn't unheard of. Military units throughout history have had mascots, dogs, goats, even monkeys. But a duck? That's where things get a bit unconventional. The Marines quickly took to Siwash, and before long, he was part of the crew. He would follow the men around, waddling through the camps and being treated like one of the guys.
And it wasn't just that they found him amusing, he actually became a sort of good luck charm. Think about it, these young men are far from home, about to enter some of the deadliest battles of World War II, and they're looking for anything to hold on to. Siwash, this little duck, became a symbol of home, of resilience, and of the idea that life goes on, even in the face of war.
Right. And let's be real, morale was a huge deal for these soldiers. Combat was grueling, exhausting, and terrifying. Having Siwash around gave them something to laugh about. It was a small distraction from the fear and violence. Plus, taking care of a duck probably reminded the Marines of their everyday lives back in the States, where a pet or farm animal was part of normalcy.
And it wasn't just a one-sided relationship either. Siwash became incredibly loyal to his human companions. He would waddle after the men wherever they went, whether they were on base or moving to a new camp. He wasn't just a pet, they considered him part of the platoon. Over time, they began treating him with the same respect they gave each other.
What's even more fascinating is that Siwash wasn't content to sit on the sidelines. While most mascots in military units might hang out in a safe spot, maybe pose for a few pictures, Siwash was different. He was right there in the action, living side by side with the Marines, who were growing fonder of him by the day. Little did they know, this duck would soon prove his courage in ways they never expected.
Exactly. And this wasn't some novelty or short-lived gimmick. Siwash became a real part of their daily lives. He even got a little helmet fashioned for him, which I find hilarious but also endearing. Imagine a duck with a tiny Marine helmet walking around camp.
It's the perfect mix of heartwarming and surreal. Here's this innocent, peaceful little creature in the middle of a war zone, and the men treated him with the same care and camaraderie they shared with each other. But as we'll see, Siwash wasn't just a cute distraction. He was about to become a symbol of Marine toughness and earn his place in the history books.
Right. The battlefield wasn't ready for what this duck was about to bring. Let's dive into how Siwash went from camp mascot to combat-hardened Sergeant Siwash. So, it's 1943, and Siwash's platoon is heading toward what would become one of the bloodiest and most brutal battles of World War II, the Battle of Tarawa. Now, for some context, Tarawa is a small atoll in the Gilbert Islands, but its strategic importance was huge. The Japanese had fortified the island heavily, and the Marines were tasked with taking it at any cost.
To say the odds were stacked against them is an understatement. The Japanese defenders had spent months building up a fortress. They had machine gun nests, artillery, pillboxes, the works. And on top of that, the approach to Tarawa was lined with treacherous coral reefs. It was a nightmare scenario for an amphibious landing, but this was the job, and the Marines had to do it.
Right, and here's where Siwash enters the story. You'd think a duck would stay behind during such a dangerous operation, right? Nope, not Siwash. He was right there in the landing craft with the Marines, heading toward the same beachhead. When they landed, it was absolute chaos, bullets flying, men diving for cover, explosions everywhere.
It's hard to imagine, but the accounts are clear. Siwash didn't panic. He stuck with the men, moving from foxhole to foxhole as if he understood the gravity of the situation. The Marines were taking heavy fire, and Tarawa became a slog of a battle, with the men having to fight tooth and nail for every inch of ground.
And the craziest part? Siwash actually thrived in this environment. The men later recalled how the little duck seemed fearless. While the bullets and artillery were flying, Siwash would waddle alongside the Marines, hopping into foxholes, and even nudging or pecking them if they were hesitating or crouching too long.
Yeah, they joked that Siwash was like a mini drill sergeant, giving them a pep talk when they needed it most. Imagine that, you're pinned down, scared out of your mind, and here comes this duck, nudging you to keep going. It's both hilarious and oddly inspiring.
It's amazing because you can tell from the way the Marines spoke about Siwash that he wasn't just a morale boost. He became a living, breathing reminder of their resolve. The men would later say that if Siwash, a duck, could handle the chaos of war, they had no excuse to back down. It's like this little creature embodied the spirit of the Marines in the most unexpected way.
Right. He wasn't cowering or hiding. Siwash stayed close to his comrades, and in a way, that inspired the Marines to push harder. He wasn't running from danger, he was facing it, right alongside them. That's the kind of unexpected bravery that sticks with you, especially in such a dire situation.
And make no mistake, the Battle of Tarawa was no easy fight. Over the course of 76 hours, the Marines faced horrific casualties, with some companies losing up to half their men. The Japanese fought fiercely, and the environment was grueling. Imagine fighting for every foot of ground while wading through waist-deep water, dodging enemy fire, and trying to maneuver around those deadly coral reefs.
And yet, in the midst of all that, Siwash was there. At one point during the battle, Marines reported seeing Siwash running around, avoiding shell blasts and still sticking close to them. There's even an account where a Marine tried to get Siwash to stay back, but the duck just waddled right back to the front lines. You couldn't keep him away.
By the time the battle ended, Siwash had cemented his place in Marine Corps lore. He wasn't just a mascot anymore, he was a true part of the platoon, a symbol of resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. The men had survived one of the most harrowing battles of the Pacific, and so had their feathered companion.
That's what's so incredible. We're not just talking about a cute story of a pet duck. Siwash was there during one of the most intense moments of the war, and he stood his ground, so to speak. His fearlessness became a sort of legend within the platoon, and it was only natural that the Marines felt he deserved something more than just honorary status.
And this is where Siwash's transformation from a simple duck to Sergeant Siwash comes into play. The men were so moved by his bravery and his loyalty that they decided to promote him. He wasn't just a mascot, he was one of them. This is where the story really takes flight.
Oh, you had to sneak that one in?
Hey, it's hard to resist. Anyway, when the Marines formally promoted Siwash, they did it in style. He was awarded the rank of sergeant, complete with his own tiny uniform and Marine chevrons sewn on. The ceremony was just like any other Marine's promotion, serious, respectful, and full of pride.
And let's not forget, Siwash earned that rank. He'd survived the hell of Tarawa alongside his brothers in arms, and in the eyes of those Marines, he was every bit a part of their unit as any human soldier. It wasn't a joke or a novelty, it was real.
Absolutely. Siwash wasn't just a duck anymore, He was Sergeant Siwash of the U.S. Marine Corps, a feathered Marine who had proven his mettle in one of the toughest battles of the war.
It's a testament to the human, and, apparently, duck, spirit. In the face of overwhelming danger, Sergeant Siwash showed us all that sometimes, bravery comes in the most unexpected packages.
So, after surviving the brutal Battle of Tarawa and earning his stripes as sergeant, you might think that Siwash's story would slow down. But nope, just like any good Marine, Siwash wasn't done yet. His legacy only continued to grow, becoming one of both legend and pure grit. And one of the wildest stories about his wartime service wasn't just about bravery under fire. It was about a showdown between Siwash and a rooster. But not just any rooster, this one belonged to the Japanese.
Yeah, buckle up folks, because this is the part where our feathered hero proves that war is unpredictable in more ways than one. Now, here's the scene. The Marines had taken over a small Pacific outpost from the Japanese, and as often happened in those situations, the men would find odd remnants of the enemy camps. In this case, the Japanese soldiers had left behind a big, proud rooster. And this wasn't just any barnyard bird, this guy had attitude.
Oh yeah, this rooster was strutting around like he still owned the place. He was a big, colorful bird. But as you can imagine, when the Marines moved in with their own mascot, Sergeant Siwash, a turf war of the avian variety was bound to happen.
And here's the thing, by this point, Siwash was no ordinary duck. He had survived some of the fiercest fighting in the Pacific and had earned his status as a combat-hardened Marine. He wasn't about to let some fancy enemy rooster take over his turf.
The rooster, on the other hand, had no idea who he was dealing with. He started puffing up, crowing loudly, and making his presence known all over camp, probably thinking he could intimidate the Marine's feathered friend. But Siwash wasn't one to back down from a fight. And so, the stage was set for what would become one of the most memorable and hilarious moments of the war.
What happened next is the stuff of legend. The rooster made the first move, strutting too close to Siwash, and before anyone knew it, feathers started flying. Siwash lunged at the rooster, wings out, and chased him across the beach. The Marines were watching this whole thing unfold, probably laughing their heads off as their battle-hardened duck went after the enemy rooster like it was a matter of honor.
And this wasn't a short chase either. According to the Marines who witnessed it, Siwash pursued that rooster up and down the beach, through the brush, and all over camp. The rooster, realizing he'd seriously underestimated his opponent, started running for his life. In the end, the Japanese rooster made a desperate dash toward the ocean, with Siwash hot on his tail, literally. The Marines couldn't believe what they were seeing. Their duck was chasing off the last remnants of the enemy, one beak peck at a time.
It's one of those stories that almost feels too wild to be true, but multiple Marines swore by it. Siwash, in his own unique way, had taken part in yet another battle, this time defending his platoon's honor from a Japanese rooster. It became a sort of campfire legend among the men, a story they'd retell with pride and laughter. Even in the face of war, moments like this reminded them that there was room for humor and camaraderie.
That fight with the rooster became part of Siwash's lore. He wasn't just a mascot anymore, he was a full-fledged Marine with a fearless streak. And in that moment, he symbolized everything the Marines stood for: determination, resilience, and a bit of scrappy attitude. Whether it was on the battlefield or in a rooster chase, Siwash wasn't backing down.
Exactly. It wasn't just about fighting the enemy, it was about showing that even in the strangest of situations, the Marines would come out on top. Siwash chasing that rooster became a story they could all laugh about, a break from the intensity of war, but also a testament to their fighting spirit. If a duck could chase off the enemy's rooster, then the Marines could certainly handle anything that came their way.
After that, Siwash's reputation was solidified. He wasn't just a cute duck tagging along for the ride, he was a Marine through and through, with the courage to match his feathered comrades. The men treated him with the respect he had earned, and from then on, Sergeant Siwash became even more of a legend. And let's be honest, not every duck can say they fought in one of the most significant campaigns of the war and had a literal face-off with the enemy.
No kidding. Siwash's story is one of those rare gems that perfectly captures the mix of absurdity and heroism that wartime experiences can bring. It wasn't just about his combat service, it was also about the spirit of the Marines, finding humor and companionship in even the strangest circumstances. Siwash had proven, time and time again, that bravery doesn't always come with boots and dog tags. Sometimes, it waddles and quacks.
By the time the war was over, Siwash had earned more than just his sergeant stripes. He had earned a permanent place in the hearts of the men who served with him and, eventually, in the annals of Marine Corps history. After the war, Siwash was treated with the honor and respect he deserved. He lived out his days as a celebrated member of the Marine family.
And that's the true legacy of Sergeant Siwash. Not just a mascot, but a symbol of loyalty, resilience, and maybe a little bit of mischief. His story lives on, not only as a light-hearted reminder of the strange moments in war, but also as a testament to the bonds that form in the heat of battle, even if one of those bonds happens to be with a duck.
Siwash might not have known it at the time, but he gave those Marines something irreplaceable, a sense of normalcy, a laugh when they needed it most, and a reminder that even in the darkest times, something, or someone, unexpected can rise to the occasion. He truly earned his place among the ranks of the brave.
And there you have it, folks. From surviving brutal combat to chasing off a Japanese rooster, Siwash's story is one for the history books. A duck, yes, but one with the heart of a Marine.
That brings us to the end of today's episode, folks. We hope you enjoyed learning about Sergeant Siwash, the Marine duck, as much as we enjoyed telling you about it.
And hey, if you loved this episode, do us a favor, rate, review, and subscribe. Your 5-star reviews really help the podcast grow and reach more listeners. And who knows? Maybe we'll do an episode on another quirky war hero next time. If you've got suggestions, we're always listening.
Definitely. You can send us your topic ideas via social media. The link is in the show notes, where you can also find a link to our new merch store. Thanks again for tuning in.
And remember, all our episodes are evergreen. So, whether you're listening today or months from now, Sergeant Siwash's tale will still be just as ducking awesome.
I knew you couldn't resist one more pun.
Had to chuck. It's in my nature. Catch you next time, folks.
Bye, everyone. Discover the dark, enchanting world of Shadowed Journeys, the tales of Jordan and Squishy. Follow Jordan, a seemingly innocent girl with a hidden power, and her loyal companion Squishy, who reincarnates into different animals after each battle. Venture into the ominous depths of the Whispering Woods as they face fierce creatures and uncover ancient secrets. Will Jordan succumb to the darkness within, or will she find the strength to forge a new destiny? Perfect for fans of dark fantasy and epic quests, this spellbinding tale will captivate and leave you pondering the fine line between hero and villain. Dive into Shadowed Journeys today. Available on Amazon now.